white wine in the world for making quality wines, i.e. white Burgundy. So everyone wanted a piece of that business, and that's what really spread Chardonnay around the world. So that's what took it to its great popularity and its plantings around the world. The funny thing with Chardonnay, if it grows in a warmer climate, it can have very tropical flavors, bananas, pineapple, real tropical notes. When it gets into cooler climates, you get more earthy characters, mushrooms, fallen leaves. It can really take on a whole lot of different things. And then the other real factor comes into the winemaking techniques. So it was funny in America in the late 70s, early 80s, early 90s, we moved into this phase of over oaking Chardonnay in America. Everyone thought Chardonnay had to be big and oaky and chewy. And quite honestly, it turned some people off. Some loved it, but for the most part, it turned a lot of people off. And then to get them more stable, they were giving them heavy malolactic fermentation, and I'll talk about a little bit more, which gives it those buttery essences. So some of you hear people or your customers asking for a buttery style Chardonnay. All it is one that's run through malolactic and more intense malolactic. Really gives it that buttery character. So the practice of over oaking Chardonnay in America has really much stopped. I mean, they're trying to get a little more stable, a little more Burgundian in style. So Chardonnay being the most popular white wine in the world, it wouldn't surprise you to know there's about 520,000 acres of Chardonnay grown worldwide. Probably the most important that we talked about in the first day of wine education was Le Montrachet. So Le Montrachet in the Burgundy area is the most expensive farmland in the world. And the last parcel of a piece of Le Montrachet was sold back in 1993. And it sold for €500,000 in 1993 for 1/10 of an acre. So truly the most expensive farmland in the world is Le Montrachet. Let's talk a little bit about, and let me get this up, about some of the characteristics of Chardonnay. So I'm going to show you this on this slide. This will take 1 second. Oh, let's get this up. So basically what I talked about was there are two different styles of Chardonnay. There's those that have become creamy, big, a little oak aged, and then there's more the leaner style, typically unoaked. But there's also in here more the warm climate Chardonnay and the cooler climate Chardonnay. So quite honestly, there's about 4 different styles in my opinion. And that's the one nice thing people like about Chardonnay. So as far as production goes, Chardonnay is actually one of the easier grapes to grow. It suffers from powdery mildew and a few other conditions in the vineyard that can damage it. But for the most part, it's a pretty easy quality grape varietal to grow. But then where it grows and how the winemaking affects it creates these different taste profiles. So we'll talk about this when we're tasting the wines. These are some of the things I really want you to look for. And I'm sure you've all printed out the aroma wheel again. When you look at that, you know, you're going to look for aromas of lemon, apple, pear, pineapple, passion fruit, peach, fig. I mean, any of these can be detectable depending, again, on what sort of climate it's grown, what sort of soil it's grown in, and what the winemaker has done with it. Other common things in the aromas, some spicy characters, lemon zest, citrus peel, anything from funky things like celery and wet flint and salt if it's coming too close to the ocean in some areas of the world, and then even nuts and vanilla bean, especially if it's oak aged. So some of the oak characters imparted are vanilla. This when it says butter under here, that's really coming from the malolactic fermentation, which is often done in barrel, and that's where you pick up both the vanilla and the butter characters. The byproduct of malolactic fermentation is actually the same chemical used to make margarine. So that's where you get that buttery character in some Chardonnay. Some, especially some nice older good Burgundies, get this creme brulee character, which is sort of cool. I had an old Chablis recently, and it had a lot of this creme brulee character that was quite fun. Acidity, typically, Chardonnay is really not a super high acid wine, but some of them can be quite bright. So this is sort of a good way to look at it, and this is something that falls into warmness and ripeness. So the more less ripe a Chardonnay is, the more that acidic and lemony character it may get, and the riper it gets, where you get more of those tropical fruits. So again, what I was talking about, in warmer climates where it's gonna ripen easy, you really get those tropical fruit characters in there. So really ripe Chardonnay can have those pineapple, mango, and you really smell them, you can tell. Whereas in their youth, they can get more of that green apple and lemon characters. Chardonnay, when it says has more plantings than any other grape, that's because it literally grows just about anywhere in the world where they grow grapes. You'll usually find some Chardonnay. So different styles. And here we talked about the butteriness. So this, again, it can attribute to oak aging, but the main process that creates that buttery character is malolactic fermentation. So that's where you get those buttery shards. So that's why when some of you ask me, like, what do we have in a real buttery chard? It's not really something labeled on the back of a wine or the front of a wine. We can look at it and tell. You pretty much have to know the style that winemaker does and have tasted that wine to see where they are. So these are just some of the popular areas. Chardonnay, in fact, when I was there in the 80s, I mean, we went to one tract that had just been planted of close to 10,000 acres of Chardonnay down in southern Australia. But Napa, Paso, I mean, pretty much anywhere you look at any major growing areas of the world, you'll find it. So unoaked Chardonnay, and you do see this labeled today on wines. Again, when they knew consumers were moving away from those real oaky Chardonnays up through the 90s, some producers actually started making it very noted on their label that it was an unoaked Chardonnay, because they knew the consumer base was moving away from those heavy oak Chardonnays and looking for something like this. So again, I mean, they can come from anywhere, but typically in Chablis is not well known for doing oak aging on their Chardonnay, or at least not new oak. You may find used oak used just to mature the wines a little bit, but they're not looking for that oaky essence. So that buttons that slide. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? All right. So again, just to sort of reiterate, Chardonnay was born in France, Burgundy to be specific. That's the primary place for it to come from. Not all Chardonnay is buttery. What causes the butteriness? Malolactic fermentation. That gives it. Most all red wines go through malolactic fermentation. Some really acidic grapes go through malolactic fermentation, but again, if you really go too high on the malolactic fermentation, you get what I think are too much of a buttery characteristic, and to me it's almost fake butter because it's the same thing you use to make margarine. If you don't like the flavors of vanilla and toasted oak, Stay away from oak Chardonnay, and you'll find them bright and fresh and acidic. When you see the term on champagne bottles from Champagne, or even in America, they use it as well, and you see the term Blanc de Blanc, that is white from white. So the only white grape grown in Champagne is the Chardonnay grape. So it means it's a champagne made from 100% Chardonnay. Talked about Chardonnay, the fact that it's very easy to grow, and that's why it's gotten so popular. And then to bust the other crazy myth, Nate says he can't hear me. Anybody else can't hear me? Nod a head or shake a head. Everybody else can hear me. Nate, put your hearing aid in. We'll be right with you. You know, we all talk about red wine with red meat and white wine with fish. Actually, a big, rich, heavy, especially buttery Chardonnay goes great with a steak. And if you think about the why, if you've ever been to Ruth's Chris or some of these places where they, you know, throw your steak in a high temperature grill with a lot of butter around it, that's a complementary flavor that makes the steak and the Chardonnay work well together. So I'm going to take a few minutes for any questions. You're welcome to text them through or hit your microphone on and ask the crowd. Anybody got any questions? Derek asked the best temp for Chard. That's an interesting question. So interestingly enough, or not surprisingly, a very oaked Chardonnay should be served a little bit warmer than an unoaked Chardonnay. So ideally, if you're looking at an unoaked Chardonnay at about 40 to 45 degrees, you would want to oak your Chardonnay at about 45 to 50 degrees, closer to the 50 ideally. Drew's asking about the alcohol on Chardonnay. So we talked about in the first class about wine naturally reaching about 14%. Chardonnay does contain a fair amount of sugars, but you'll typically find them running anywhere from 12 to 15% alcohol. Josh is asking about why is oak used for more riper Chardonnays? What they're trying to achieve with oak is just picking up those secondary characters. So what you're getting from the oak are those essences of vanilla and obviously wood tones. And, you know, that's used to add a little more complexity. And if you've got a riper Chardonnay that you're putting into wood, then your primary effect is going to be that combination of everything. It's going to make this big, juicy, yet vanillan, yet oaky wine. And that's just sort of trying to what you would call overachieving with a wine. So, yeah, I guess. I mean, I've only tasted Rombauer once. It's not my style to me. The problem with Rombauer is too much oak, too much sugar, and it's trying to overachieve. I mean, hey, but people like it. You know, wine's very subjective, just like art and food. So if they like it that way, they like it that way. So God bless them. Any other questions at this stage? I don't know, and I'll show it if I don't think I recommended loading this, but it's a good little sheet I put together. This is the 10 most useful words in wine. So it's on the drive. This is sort of good for you just for self-practice because these are the common words you find talking about wine. The aromas of the bouquet, just like we did with the sheet that we'll get to in a minute. Is it dry or sweet? Is it crisp? Is it soft? What's the body like? And you remember we talked about what body. So you're comparing body to skim milk, light body, heavy cream, full body. So that's that body weight, that feel in your mouth. The flavor intensity, how rich are those flavors? How long does it last? You remember we talked about last week, how long those flavors last. The greatest wines in the world have long, lingering flavors. Oaky. So, you know, is this wine, does it have oak or not oak? And some of these say they have oak, some I don't know. We'll see. So we'll decide that on the wines for today. Tannic, obviously tannins are what you find in red wines. Is it fruity? You know, does this wine have good aromas and flavors of fruit? And what's the finish? What's your long impression? So everyone printed the wine evaluation sheet and the wine wheel again? All right. So let's go through the wines. So let's start with the fit vine and let's walk it through. So if you want to take your wine evaluation chart and wine number 1, write down fit vine Chardonnay. This is a 2000, at least the bottle I have is 2018 vintage. Should all have the same. I think that's the only vintage we have in the warehouse, unless they found an odd bottle or two. So let's take a look at this. So you remember, let's swirl this wine first. This is going to open it up a little bit. Oh, you can look for legs. Do you see anything happening? They're starting to come down. So relatively full-bodied, certainly medium to full-bodied. The fact that the legs are coming down slow and they're not all sheeting together. And the fit vine is labeled at, I think, 13% alcohol, 13.4. 13.4 alcohol. So color looks fine, right? You don't see any little cloudiness or anything else. So the appearance is good. It's excellent. It's no problem. All right, how about the aromas? So let's talk about it. Remember what we just talked about with Chardonnay and the aromas you should get on Chardonnay. What do you get on that?
Banana. Apple, I'd say.
Get apple, you get banana. So, all right, so what do these both tell you a little bit about? So if you're getting a little banana, so a little tropical sort of fruit in here, so probably some warm weather, right?
Yeah.
They don't tell you specifically on fit vine a whole lot of details about what vineyard sites or anything. They say on this Chardonnay, this is coming from anywhere across from Sonoma to Lodi. So we know it's got some warmer climate fruit. Could have some cooler climate fruit. Could be any range, because if you look at the bottle, you see it's just labeled California Appellation. So that opens up a full world of opportunities for them there. What other aromas do you get? Does anyone get any citrus type aromas? Any lemony characters?
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, what else you get? Describe this wine to me. Open up your mics and talk, or send a chat. Can anybody hear me? Do you smell oak in this? Do you smell anything that smells woody or vanilla?
A little vanilla.
I don't.
A little vanilla taste.
I just get fruity and citrus. That's really about all I'm getting.
Yep.
A lot of citrus.
Yep, I agree with Alan. I mean, this certainly has some nice fruit characters, but very citrusy character. So what does that tell you a little bit? So do you think this is aged in wood?
Mm-mm.
No.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of it was, maybe a little bit of used oak or old oak, but there's certainly no major underlying tones of oak to it. You know, a Fitbine is very, very important wine for us, very big seller for us. But you know, their whole hype is less sugar, fewer sulfites, no flavor additives, GMOs, anything else. I mean, their whole stress is minimal sugar. So on this, they say it's 0.04 grams per liter of sugar. So that's extremely dry, but it doesn't come off. It doesn't hit you with a lot of alcohol and lack of sugar. It's quite well balanced. I mean, it's a nice, easy drink. It's it fits out there well. So, how about taste and texture? What do you think? Does it taste good? Is it pleasant? Is it well done?
Very pleasant.
How about the aftertaste? Does it stay with you? Is there a long finish on this?
Kind of quick.
Relatively quick, a little short is what you call short on the finish.
It lingers for me a little bit, but not
Yeah,
too.
no, there's still something there. It's not
in a
gone
good
gone.
way.
Yeah. What else can you say about this?
Clean.
It's a clean taste.
Yeah. It's very clean, and again, having such low, almost non-existent sugars, you're gonna have that very clean, that acidified, a little bit of a finish. Very crisp. Yep, Jen, I agree. It has a decent body, but it's very clean. Crushable, as Parker says. Yeah, they like to crush it at Fitbine. So. Oh, it's a pleasant wine. I mean, there's certainly nothing offensive about this wine. It's well made. It's easy to drink. It's sort of easy to see its popularity. This is my first time ever tasting this, so it's interesting. You like it all right? How would you score this on a 20-point scale? So go back to your wine evaluation chart.
I got 13 out of it.
I got 14.
You shouldn't be eating chocolate with this, Rick, and it tastes better, do you?
Cheese and crackers. I miss lunch. Putting up displays.
There you go. Nice, pleasant wine. Not a flaw about it. Easy to drink. This actually would be really good with a salad or with some light foods. A nice broiled fish. It would do fine. It does what it's made to do, I suppose. The best way to look at it. All right, let's move to wine number 2, and that's going to be our Esser Chardonnay. So back in my days of studying California wine, Chardonnay really had 2 very prominent homes for quality Chardonnay. That was Carneros, which I debated using it today, but if you haven't had our Carneros Highway Chardonnay, that wine is delicious. It really is. That's that same group we talked about last week, the Highway 12 group and the San Giacomo family of growers. That's a beautiful Carneros Chardonnay. And this is the other really popular area back in the time for premium Chardonnay. And this is the area of Monterey. So Monterey is down. Oh, let's see. If I can pull this up. Let's grab this. Let's grab this real quick. So here is your Monterey growing area. So this is the Monterey Peninsula right here down south of San Jose. And here's your Monterey growing region. What's nice about Monterey, it gets nice, really cool breezes. If you've ever been in the city of Monterey, I mean, you know how cold and it can get at night, like San Francisco. And speaking of San Francisco, you got Carneros is right up here, right above Sausalito, southern part of Sonoma and Napa, sitting right on San Francisco Bay. So every night it just gets a major cold influx there, even during the daytime. There's a lot of cold air coming off the bay. So those are actually good areas for cool climate Chardonnay, which, as we know, Chardonnay does very well in those cool climates. So take a look at the appearance. What do you think? Nice sort of golden hue, nice golden color. Obviously no real glycerin rings or off color, so it's fresh. Certainly not old in any way. How about the aroma and bouquet?
It's nice.
What do you smell on this? Tangerines. I like that, Brandon.
Tangerines.
You certainly start picking up tropical fruits on this particular one. Yep. Shelby says pineapple. Some oak. Yeah. Very, very subtle oak. Ryan calls it pungent. I'm not sure if that's in a good or a bad way. All right, so we know we've got some tropical fruits there. We've also got some obvious apple notes in there. I mean, pretty much unless you just screwed up your Chardonnay, you should always find some hints of apple somewhere lingering in there.
Bill, notice the color of this versus the Fit Vine. It's really much more pronounced. The Fit Vine looks almost like a Sauvignon Blanc to me.
Well, this is a little more golden, so that may also tell us that wood treatment. So
that's right.
Again, picking up those wood notes and that wood treatment will give you a little color. What else does anyone get out of this? Anything off the aroma wheel come to mind?
What is it?
How about the taste and texture of this wine? Would you call this a full-bodied wine, medium-bodied wine, light-bodied wine?
It's medium body.
Yeah, I would say so.
Everybody said medium because I said it.
It's always nice to have a leader in the crowd. How about the taste? Do you like that flavor? You get tropical fruits in the flavor.
Get tropical.
You get a little touch of the toasted wood. Yeah, Brad says toasted almond, of course. Picking that up, a little bit of wood treatment. Beautiful fruit. I mean, quite honestly, when I tasted these wines, we just added these a few months ago. I mean, I was blown away at this wine for its value. This is consumer Chardonnay right here. I mean, this can make a lot of people very happy. It's a pretty Chardonnay.
I'd put this up against Kendall Jackson.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things I put up against Kendall Jackson. Not saying much. So let's see what Esser tells me about this. So Monterey County, 13.5 alcohol, residual sugar 6.4 grams per liter, acidity 7.8, pH of 3.45. This wine actually won a gold medal from the Tastings Institute, Beverage Tasting Institute, 91 points, gold medal. They don't give me a whole lot more. They mentioned lemon curd, pineapple, and vanilla. I think we all pretty much got those same things. Tropical fruits with accent of citrus and lemon blossom. I think we all agree with that. Pretty nice little Chard. Yeah. What do you think about the finish?
Finish.
Very nice.
Finish is
Very smooth.
really,
Better finish than the fit vine
To you.
to
a
me.
lot happens right after you take a sip. It takes it a second, and then it, for me, just opens up kind of mid-palate, if you will.
Yeah, well, it can do that.
Yeah.
Can also
It's
be
in
a
there.
brain cell issue sometimes, Alan. So.
Or lack thereof.
Just never
It's
know.
like my brain. Sometimes it takes it a few seconds to get
Right.
gear. So
True.
pineapple upside down cake. I like that, Carrera. It really does. I mean, it really reminds you of that without all the sugar. So it's like a dessert version of a pineapple upside down cake.
Mhm.
It's pretty nice. So let's see. Somebody I saw popped up a score of 16 a minute ago. What do you think out of 20 points?
13, 16, 17,
16.
I got an 18.
Look at there.
I had 17.
Beat you. I had 18.
Well, I'll give you the great news on this wine. We sell, our case price on this is $8.45 a bottle.
That's right.
That's pretty nice bottle of juice for that price. All their wines are great. So we've got, I think, 4 or 5 SKUs that we brought in from Esser right away. So, so it's good. It's good.
Yes, it is.
All right. Any other questions and comments?
That's a good one.
I can't wait to try some of their other wines now because this is the first time I've tried any of their wines.
Yeah.
I'll definitely try them.
Yeah, like I say, we just brought them in and sort of kicked them off a few months ago with the Atlanta crowd. So there you go. Good choice, Bradford. Put it up with a grilled cheese sandwich. You'll be in paradise. As long as you're using Gruyere and Brie, I think.
There you go.
All right, nice. Jennifer asked if this sort of competes with the other Monterey's. By far the best price on a Monterey Chardonnay. I mean, the only other real Monterey Chard that I can think of that we have is the Viña Robles we talked about briefly last week. We tasted their Cabernet, but their particular vineyard on that was very expensive. They brought it from Joseph Phelps. Very different style of Chardonnay than this is. And even in the day when Monterey sort of became real popular, like I say, back in the 80s, I guess it was, there was a range of prices of wines out of Monterey. There was those that retailed for $9.99, and there were those that were $20, you know, and that's back when wine was pretty cheap overall. So it, you know, it's a lot of wine for the money. It's a good wine, but the other one we have is not this style. It's a much bigger, richer style. So, all right, let's jump to the Lang twins. So here, this comes out of their Clarksburg vineyards. Clarksburg is right below Sacramento, right next to Lodi. Clarksburg is quite interesting. It's a pretty cool appellation. Let me sort of show you where that one is. Let's zoom this up. So here you've got Sonoma over here, Lodi here, Sacramento, and this little piece right here is Clarksburg. So Clarksburg really has the river coming right through it, and this is where a lot of the Sandpoint wines come from, off of this river. But it stays remarkably cooler than most of Lodi. Western Lodi stays pretty cool, and then the further east you get, the warmer it gets. Except at nights, you get a little play in the evening off the mountains, off the Sierras. But this area here, and the soil is very unique in Clarksburg, and it's really nice for Chardonnay, for Cabernet. Couple varieties really do well in the Clarksburg appellation. Oh, let's come back here. All right. So let's talk about this one. How about the color and appearance and the clarity? What do you think? A little more similar to the Esser?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would think so. How about the clarity? You see anything cloudy, nasty, repulsive?
Not at all.
Very clean.
Nice leg.
Very clean. Yeah, no, this actually, this has a pretty obvious body characteristic to it from the legs. Very slow to fall. A little more spread out. Now, how about on the aromas of this wine?
Tropical again.
A little tropical. What else do you get?
Obviously apple. I can't never pick up vanilla.
Something
You
there I
definitely
can't-
pick up the vanilla and the oak more in this wine.
Yeah,
This obviously has a little more oak treatment than the Esser or the Fitvine.
I just can't get that vanilla. I get the oak. I can't get vanilla. Maybe it's my senses. I just don't get vanilla.
Yep, yeah, it's almost goes hand in hand with American oak pretty much any time. So they say that this.
French.
I remember something I read about this. It had a relatively extensive wood treatment. Also, they aged this sur lie, so this is aged on the lees for a few additional months to give it a little more depth and richness. This is their own estate, so this is their part of the family holdings. Cold evenings, breezy afternoons, ideal for the perfect acidity, pH balance, and strong fruit flavors. Do you get in a little butteriness on the flavor when you taste this one?
I do.
It's buttery.
Yeah.
So, you know, those of you that have customers looking for Chardonnay with a little butteriness character, a little oak character, I mean, this is a perfect example of that. It's well done. I mean, they didn't, nothing's over the top, but it's certainly well done. What other aromas does anyone get out of this? Do you get that lemon or that lemon curd or any of those other pineapple or tropical fruits like we found in the Esser, or
Not too much
is it
lemon.
a little more singular to a few things?
Not much lemon.
I mean, to me, I think this is primarily a little apple, a little vanilla. I mean, this smells like a nice apple pie to me.
Yeah.
Without the cinnamon. More like a fresh tart, right, Erica? How about the finish on this? Do you like the mouthfeel? Do you like the finish? What do you get?
Very creamy mouthfeel.
Very creamy. So that comes again from the little malolactic fermentation. Trey said light acidity. So what happens when you're doing malolactic fermentation? You're converting those harder malic acids into a softer lactic acid. So milk has lactic acids. So that's where you get that creaminess. So that malolactic gives it that creaminess, gives those butter characters. So this is where malolactic done properly shows up properly. So how about the taste and the aftertaste? So we concluded it's got a nice medium body. What do you say, Phil?
A little more aftertaste on this one.
Yeah, it's got a little bigger finish than the other wines. A little richer, longer finish.
Longer finish, for sure.
Yep, this one certainly stays with you. I'm still tasting it right now.
Yeah, true. Interesting. Good.
What else? What's your overall impression, either point-wise or love-wise?
I'm gonna go 18 on this one.
There you go.
I got a 16 on this one. I must have left something out. I like it. The overall impression.
I agree with you, Natalie and Shelby. I think this is a good 17 to 18 wine. It's a solid wine. It's textbook style Chardonnay. It's got those characters you would expect in a nice oak aged Chardonnay. I mean, it's very well done. A lot of you have had good success with the Lang Twins stuff. I put another sheet on the drive about Lang Twins. It's pretty cool. You might want to read. It's got some good information on it. Obviously, we know this is Lang Twins, so all these vineyards are certified sustainable. Also, the Esser is certified sustainable growing. So I'll skip those 2 points, but
And the Lang Twins is 14.5 also.
yeah, this is high alcohol. So again, giving it a little more body than we saw in the other one.
You can tell it. You can tell it on the.
That's pretty high. Well, you'll tell it later when you finish that bottle. You'll know.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
He's already starting to slur.
Vanessa said this wine makes her money. Her accounts love it, and they would. I mean, yeah, it is that. You know, I hate to use the term, but it's that typical flavor profile that most American Chardonnay drinkers are looking for.
Very true.
Really, especially when they're in that $15 price point of shopping. This one really hits it. I agree with you, Shanna. They do crush it with everything they make. Karen Birmingham, she's a very talented winemaker, and Daniel Aola. These guys, their team is buttoned up. The family's buttoned up. I mean, they're a great partner to have. As y'all know, I tout their attributes all the time. So I think everything they do. Lang Twins, this one on case one is 1153. And I mean, this is, better than most $15.99, $16.99, $17.99 wines you're going to find out there, I think. So it's a good one. It's a good one. All right, everybody flip your mics off. Give me your comments. Yeah, I agree with you, Brian. All their wines are good.
Yeah.
Good family.
Yep. Good folks.
Was it third generation? Is that right?
Yep. First
Very
generation,
varietally.
just farmers. So
Really
They're
varietally correct.
Bill says fifth generation. Yeah, I think going back to just the whole farming thing, it could be fifth generation. Brian, like the Lang Twins the best. Their Moscato is the first Moscato that Shannon's had. It's really nice Moscato, actually. I had it at a Jamaican restaurant in Sandy Springs. It's poured by the glass. It's good.
I'll have to remember.
That's really nice on this one too. That does not hurt.
That Moscato's really good.
Yep. What do you think, Trace?
That's very good. Michelle's feeling like
Michelle, you got something you can drink tonight?
Crazy.
Hey, Jennifer.
Hello.
There's a question on the grape requirements. I missed the questions. Sorry, I can't always catch them all as they pop up here. What was Jared's question on grape last week? Cabernet. Yeah, Jared. Everything on varietal name in California is 75%. So it doesn't matter what variety, if you put any varietal on the label, minimum requirement is 75% of that varietal. So it doesn't matter whether it says Cabernet, Chenin Blanc, Pinot Noir, anything. They're all applied the same way. But again, I think a lot of these producers are probably pushing close to a much higher percentage of that. So it could have some other. I don't see any notes on any of their notes about these wines that mention any other grape varieties.
Well, what other countries other than Southern Australia and South Africa add Viognier to their Chardonnay on almost on average?
Yeah, I mean, there's a varietal of grape that's a hybrid between Chardonnay and Viognier that was created in South Africa. So, yeah, I mean, some of them do that just to give it, again, a little more tropical notes, especially in some of those cooler parts of South Africa where they really want some more tropical notes coming through. They'll throw in some Viognier in there just to give it a little more of those tropical aromas. So,
But yeah, it's for the aromatics mainly.
yeah,
Most,
that's basically all that Viognier gives you for the most part. It's very one-dimensional flavor-wise.
yeah, hard to rival to sell by itself.
They don't tell me the proportion of lees aging that they do on this bread. We know it's aged on lees. I know just talking to the family that they go a little bit. So typically when you are aging Chardonnays and Sauvignon Blancs and things like that, on lees, you typically go about anywhere from 20 to 30 days. And I know they go a little more extensively, certainly on their Sauvignon Blanc. So I imagine they do on the same on the Chard. So it's probably 40, 45 days on these with daily batonnage, daily stirring. So.
Well, very good. I wish I had some scallops.
Yeah, really.
Oh yeah, did I tell you I'm making coquille Saint Jacques tonight, so I got plenty of white wine to cook it down with. So
Good.
So I got the scallops in the fridge, ready to go.
You come in milk before you get some of the. You ever do any of that? Try it one time, especially if you be paying fry pretty.
Yeah.
Not fry them, but you saute them.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, these are just going to be steamed, so they're steamed in the white wine. It's a coquille.
Yeah. Okay. I grill a lot of them.
Wrap them in bacon.
Always.
Yeah. Not tonight. I'm cutting
On the
them.
grill. On the grill.
Mm.
All right. What do y'all think? Was it a good day?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's better every time.
no doubt
What's
about it.
next week? Pinot?
Pinot Noir.
I think next week is Pinot. I got it on the drive, but I'll have to look. So I'll blast that out. So yeah, we'll have some fun. Well, if anyone else have any other questions?
I don't.
Good job. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. Have a great weekend. Let me know if you need anything, and keep it up out there.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Rick.
All right.
Thanks,
Have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody.